I'm here live from the floor of the NYC with Jim Cramer. Jim, what's top of mind for you this morning?
Endless upgrades. Endless and thoughtless. I mean, NVIDIA. Now, we've been on fraction alerts now for like 100 and I don't know how many points I have to ask Jeff. Now? NXPI now? Google now? I mean, so when you look at the upgrades, you start thinking, can I please take a breather here? And that's, I think, what the market is trying to digest. The notion that maybe it's time for a breather because you just can't keep going higher on the same news. Fatuous. Give it a chance. If you haven't bought these stocks yet, now I want you to, when you see a recommendation of Lam Research 100 points higher than we bought it, don't you start thinking, well, maybe that's later than, so that's, yeah.
Especially if you're listening to you.
Reminds me of a tombstone that says, relax, it's later than you think.
That's a tombstone that you've seen? Okay, so Jim, this morning we got the jobs report. It came in around 145,000 jobs added in December, which missed expectations of 160,000. But unemployment rates held strong at
but I think they have to asterisk that with Boeing. I mean, Boeing is just the great job engine of manufacturing, and it wasn't in. Instead, healthcare drove it. And healthcare, I've always regarded those, no offense to anybody saying I support a lot of healthcare issues, but those are bad jobs, so to speak, because that means more inflation in the healthcare system typically. And the good jobs, housing, manufacturing, jobs that don't require you to get an advanced degree are kind of stagnant. I think that's why, if you were the president, you could argue no wage growth, let's cut again. And I think when he gets less distracted by other issues, you're going to hear that. Now, I don't know whether everybody's on board on that, but I know that the president could easily say it.
But does the job report, does the unemployment number, does that matter at this point?
Oh, boy, it always matters. I did a study for the last 20 years. There's no number more important. It's the only macro number that you really need to focus on, frankly. And that macro number says the Fed can't tighten, and if anything, the Fed has to have bias toward loosening. And that means don't fight. You're not fighting the Fed, and you're not fighting the tape, which is why you can continue to have, after maybe a little pullback, because it's like getting unnerving that we keep raising things on the same. But it does say that even though some people feel that at 18 times earnings the market's expensive, it could even increase more.
Now, you mentioned Boeing, and I want to talk about the most recent news, which was the memos that were made public last night.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, you have to say, can it get worse? Clowns and monkeys, Cavalier. Remember, this was for the simulator, not for the plane. A lot of people are saying it's for the plane. My take is this. We're getting closer, unless the congressman who's investigating him, DeFazio, unless he calls for something like criminal investigation, unless he says, look, I'm putting a hard stop on this thing till we figure it out, then what you have right now is Greg Smith, the interim CEO, Calhoun takes over next week, made it so, did the big change, said, listen, the pilots should use a simulator. Dennis Mullberg had fought to not do that, and that was one of the most reckless things he could have done. So I would say that the narrative could soon be turning the corner, based on the fact that it's hard to get worse. This stuff was already known, by the way. That's important. Will I fly a 737 Supermax, whatever? I think the answer is yes, if the pilots had to have training, even though the pilots who's been 3,000 hours would say no, but I do feel better. And they made the software change. So I don't think the plane has to be scrapped. I think the plane will be approved. Because this is what the FAA wants. I just need to know what DeFazio is going to do. And he's a congressman from a very liberal area that is Boeing, a sworn opponent of Boeing. So you need Calhoun to come in very quickly and say, he needs to do what I would regard as a root and branch cultural change. And it's hard because up until 6 months ago, we thought that Boeing had the best culture. So then now we realize it didn't have a great culture, so now they have to change everything. That's a very hard storyline. And people are trying to get their heads around the idea that, well, I thought Boeing was the best. I guess they weren't, but now they're going to try to be the best again. But I think they'll succeed. I wish there was someone, there's a general who just retired from the Air Force Academy, And Boeing should reach out to him and say, please, come in and be our CEO's advisor, because he is not a person who has flown 3,000 hours. And the man who headed the Air Force Academy had flown 4,000 hours. It's time for someone outside of Boeing to get into Boeing. And if that doesn't happen, it's going to take longer than we would like.
Jim, we just hit Dow 29,000. Is this an important milestone?
No, I don't think so. And two reasons why. One, the Dow's not as important, and the second, it's not a number that is. It's a number. Wait till 30,000. 30,000 might be talked about. Might be on the front page of the paper, not this number. By the way, at a certain point, hate him or like him, I think you have to say, you know what? Trump helped the averages go up. The odd thing is that the sector that is not being helped is oil, because he's made it so he's deregulated to the point where oil's so plentiful it can't rally. But there's going to be an attempt, I think, by the president to relate the averages to the average person. Right now they're not, and that's because not enough people own stock. I know the president would like to see dividend taxes cut. I know Larry Kudlow would like to see dividend taxes cut. I have been in favor of dividend taxes going to next to nothing, because I want people to stay with stocks and not trade them. If they did that, then we would get out of this moronic individual ETFs, and people would stop pulling out and putting it into money funds. That may be for me in 2020, besides being Jimmy Chill. I may have to say, listen, it's time to cut the dividend tax. You can make it up in other ways.
Apple, which is our real money stock of the day, has hit all-time highs recently. Is it where it should be? Should it go higher?
Well, I mean, Apple's getting... I was looking at Colgate yesterday. Colgate has a 24 multiple. Colgate kind of sucks. But it's a consumer product company. Apple may be the foremost consumer product company in the world, but it trades as if it a little bit better than a hardware company, but not as good as a software company. So my argument would be it is becoming a consumer product company, so give it a consumer product multiple. If I were running a research department right now, I would switch Apple from tech to consumer product. They are the foremost tech company I know, but the multiple in the consumer product company is so much better, and they deserve it.
Jim, we're launching a new piece on TheStreet.com, which is let's not say fight, but let's say...
Is that a new tattoo?
No, it's the same tattoo.
Same tattoo?
Yeah, it's just it's two lavenders for my mom and my grandma.
My daughter got a tattoo.
Oh yeah, what did you get?
She got a kind of floral design right here, and I didn't know it until I went on vacation. I knew I'd followed her on Instagram, and she was in front of a tattoo parlor, but it was jarring.
What did you think of it, though, besides for it being jarring?
Well, it's good, but it's on the wrong place. It's on her body. It's my daughter. Tattoo. So she came right back to me and said, Dad, you got to get one. It was an interesting way to argue. Millennials. Millennials just don't even care. I mean, they're like, look, screw you.
But let's give some advice to millennials. If I'm a millennial and I'm trying to set up my own investing strategy, why should I look at two diverging opinions to set up my own strategy?
Well, I think that if you go to my Twitter feed, you'll see a lot of people saying, what do you think of X? And I would like them to see on the one hand and on the other. Suitability, which is really an important issue, can't really be addressed unless you have the contrasting views. Because you don't know what's suitable for you. But if you knew what the risk is and the reward is, which is what contrasting views would do, I think you would have much better view of what's suitable for you. And that's been a big problem. A lot of people don't know what's suitable for them. So I love it. I love divided opinions. It's really terrific. It's one of the things that we do best. Always have since we started 24 years ago.
All right, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, thanks for tuning in.
Right here. Anyway, that's...
I think it's a good spot because it's hidden. You don't have to show it. Whereas mine, you have to show them.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, we are now heading over to our ActionAlertsPlus.com daily rundown show. Head on over to Action Alerts Plus. I'm Catherine Ross. Happy Friday, and we'll see you on Monday.